For a few years now, automotive enthusiasts like me have been cringing a bit at the thought of, in a few years, we aren't going to have any exciting cars. They're all going to be electric. They're going to have no personalities and be dull. However, the new 2022 Audi Etron GT makes me hate electric cars a little bit less. Similar to its sister or brother, the Taycan, this car is striking. The proportions are just right, and it doesn't depart too much looks-wise from a traditional car. It just looks a little bit more sleek, a little bit more modern. I like how they have the faux grille down here. You know, it's the little details like that that tie this car together for me. And in today's video, we're gonna kind of go on an in-depth look on what this car has to offer. We're gonna talk about specs, we're gonna talk about range, we're gonna talk about interior features, and then I'm gonna share my driving impressions with you. With that said, let's get into this one. The Audi e-tron GT is an impressive offering from Audi. With two models available, the e-tron GT is considered the base car, available in two trim levels, the Premium Plus and the Prestige level. It produces 496 horsepower and 464 foot-pounds of torque, with the ability in overboost mode to put out 522 horsepower and 472 foot-pounds of torque. It'll do 0 to 60 in 3.9 seconds, which is impressive thanks to its dual motors, making it all-wheel drive. It has 9.2 cubic feet of trunk space in the rear and has 1.8 cubic feet of trunk space in the front. It has an estimated 238 miles of range, which isn't impressive by Tesla standards. However, it makes up for it a bit with its 800-volt battery architecture, being able to charge from 5% to 80% in just 22 minutes. Getting into this, I just love the layout. I mean, I think Audi's done a great job at changing this interior from the look of the Taycan. It feels definitely like two different vehicles. I love how everything kind of just wraps around here. I mean, you can see from the door card onto the dash. And I like how in this versus the Taycan that they've only included one infotainment screen and not had that kind of like double stack thing, especially like you see in almost every other Audi as well. I like that they're kind of just sticking with one screen now. You can see that the driver's information center is a digital display. There isn't that much customization. They kind of leave it simple. You just hit the view button and basically you can go from a full screen setup displaying your media, your map and whatnot, to a more compact setup where you have traditional gauges. You can't customize the gauges at all, which honestly I don't really care about because it just works and it's simple to read. They haven't overcomplicated it. And moving on to the center console, you can see here you have a pretty standard Audi MMI screen, not really too different from what you'll see in the other vehicles, except for if you go to input navigation directions, it will map out charging destinations based off your current range, which is important. It has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You could see really nice and responsive there, which you'd expect out of a 2022 car at this point. I like how all the icons are nice and big and easy to read. And if you look down here, we have physical buttons for the HVAC system, which to me is a win. There are so many cars that piss me off with how many screens I need to go to just to turn on and off the AC or the heat. I like that. Look at that. One tap. I don't need to go through 3 different menus just to turn off the AC. In the back seat's okay if you have kids. If you're carrying around tall people, I really don't recommend it. If I put my head straight up, it's on the headliner if I lean back. Knee room isn't terrible. The seat's set up from when I was sitting up there, so you know, you can see I still have a little bit, which is nice, but if you're going to be carrying around taller adults on a daily basis, probably not for you. Around town, this car is so smooth. Honestly, I've forgotten that it's an electric car, and that's a huge compliment because, like I said earlier, I'm not a fan of electric cars. And this is making it a lot harder for me to hate them. As a luxury experience, this definitely feels like a complete package. It's quiet, it's very smooth, soft on the road with this adjustable suspension and comfort. And there's really no compromise from a traditional car to this car, you know, in terms of just normal driving experience. It has plenty of power, you know, you ease into it, the torque is right there. But it's not like, especially in comfort mode, it's not too abrupt. It's not too like I don't know, twitchy. Like it's hard to explain. Like when these cars are like too abrupt, you add a little bit of throttle and you get more than you expected. It's calibrated just right. There's not a lot of body roll in the turns, and I just love the way this interior wraps around me. It really feels like I'm in a jet fighter cockpit, the way the windshield's rigged. You're looking down on the road. You know, they have all these, it's all tied together so well. But then, once you flip it into dynamic mode, this car really does come alive. It has a good amount of personality to it. Just get a quick little acceleration run in, and yeah, that'll definitely put a smile on your face. I mean, it's properly quick. It's not too much. It's definitely not Tesla Model S fast. Let's not get carried away there. But it's definitely a healthy amount of power for this car. And in dynamic mode, there's very little body roll. You could definitely feel a significant change in the suspension in terms of firmness. Let me just slow down and yeah, it's definitely fun. If we're going to compare these to the Porsche Taycans, if I had to say, if you've experienced the Porsche Taycan 4S, this is definitely similar in terms of feel and acceleration. The driving experience is definitely very close. I would say that in the Porsches, they're sprung a bit tighter. You feel a little bit more of the road, and they ride a little bit flatter. I've driven pretty much every trim level of the Taycan. You could watch my individual reviews of different trim levels. I've driven everything from the base Taycan, the Taycan 4S, the Turbo and the Turbo S, so the Cross Turismo. I've driven pretty much all the trim levels of that car, and this feels very close. It's just a little bit more forgiving on the road. It's a little bit more comfortable. It definitely leans more towards the luxury side of things than the sports car side of things, whereas the Taycan felt a little bit firmer on the road, a little bit more sports car-like. But this is not the top trim level of this car, so I think it's kind of unfair for me to jump to that and say that. That's just a first impression. I will, however, be doing in the future, as I mentioned earlier, a video comparing both the Taycan and the e-tron GT in the same video, so I get those back-to-back impressions. The way this compensates for body roll is on point, honestly. For how heavy these cars are, because keep in mind, all these electric cars are very heavy. I'm going to put the actual weight on the screen right here. This handles very well. I've really enjoyed my time in the e-tron GT. I think as an overall package that Audi's really hit it on the head with this. From a luxury standpoint, the interior is built really nicely. The use of materials is great, especially, you know, it's definitely what I'd expect out of this price point. It's quiet, it's refined. The suspension is really comfortable in comfort mode, and the way the power delivery is really just on point with this car. You know, from the outside, this car definitely has a lot of presence. You're definitely not sacrificing looks for practicality with one of these. It definitely grabs a lot of attention. People look at it because of how cool it is. And then, you know, from the standpoint of being a practical everyday driver, you know, the range on this car isn't bad. Yes, some Teslas definitely offer more range, of course, but you do have faster charging on this car, which helps offset that a little bit. I think the best thing about this car is that when you're driving it around town, you don't feel like it's an electric car. You just feel like you're driving a car, a nice luxury car around town. And then, you know, from a dynamic standpoint, you flip it into dynamic mode, and it's fun to drive. You definitely feel how heavy of a car it is. It's not something that's nimble that you throw around the corners. I would say that, like, the Taycans maybe do a little bit better of a job in that aspect of feeling more like a sports car, but as a luxury car, I think they've really nailed it with this. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you haven't done so yet, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future videos. With that said, special thanks to my friends down at Audi Fairfield in Connecticut for providing today's car. They're an awesome, friendly group of people to work with, and if you're in the market for one of these, be sure to contact them. They have a few, but they won't last for long. With that said, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next video.